Andrew Gibbons here, and Rebecca Norton is here too. Rebecca, briefly tell us who you are, where you come from.
I am Rebecca from Centre of Direction in a very soggy Sheffield this morning.
Okay, we're talking about the Johari window. And the Johari window, in my 40 years experience in the learning and development business, Rebecca's much older than me and has got at least 65 years in the learning and development business. Not really. The Johari window is one of those almost mythical creatures. We know about it where we've not used it much, if at all, and it recedes into the back of the minds of a lot of people. I find so that's true of me. I've recently rediscovered it, and the Johari window is a very versatile and useful tool.
Yeah, I like it. I had come across it a while ago, but not really looked into it in depth. So I came across it when I was doing my teacher training as a reflection tool, and it was good, but I haven't looked at it very much since, to be honest.
I guess my knowledge of it goes back to the 80s, and it is a tool. My first reference to it I found to 1977. It's been around a long time, and I never really got sufficiently into it. I was aware of it. I know it's useful for self-awareness and for diagnostic purposes, but I just didn't start using it. And I wish I had, because I certainly intend to use it more now that I've reacquainted myself with it and realized how simple, straightforward, and accessible it is.
Yeah, definitely. Should we explain the different areas and how it's sort of the basic premise of it?
Which is Rebecca code for don't forget to explain the different areas, because some people are just listening to this. And I would have done, but you're quite right to prompt me, because I sometimes do forget the basics. So what we're looking at here in two axes is an axis which is down the left of four boxes. And the boxes are the open area, the blind spot along the top, and below them, bottom left, hidden area and unknown. The two axes are simple and straightforward. Not known to others, known to others. So the hidden area, bottom left, is not known to others or to self. And above that, the open area, top left, is known to others, known to self. Then on the right-hand side, not known to self, we have blind spot and unknown. So the unknown box, bottom right, is not known to others or to self. And the blind spot at the top, I'm making this sound more complicated than it really is. The blind spot, top right, is known to others, not known to self. It's simple and straightforward.
It is, but it's a really good structure, and I think that's why I like it as the reflection tool, is because it gives you some ideas of where to work on things, rather than just thinking about a particular situation. It gives you some real structured ideas of thinking about, right, what do I know about what happened, if it's a particular situation or whatever, what do I think happened that other people can perhaps tell me did or didn't happen. So I think it's a useful structure to guide you.
It absolutely is. And of course, this is based on perceptions, isn't it? So if, for instance, we've got a blind spot, the box which is known to others but not known to self, and that's the blind spot. It's supposed to be known to others. Well, maybe it is, and maybe it is accurately. It's the perception of others. So I've got thoughts about you in terms of my perception of your competencies, capabilities, which are immense. Some of which you might have a blind spot about. I might say, hey, Rebecca, I'm really impressed when I see you do this. And you'll say, really? I don't think I do that at all. That suggests there's things in your blind spot that I, as somebody who knows you reasonably well from doing a lot of these, sees, but you don't, and vice versa. If that was in the hidden area, it could be things you know about yourself, I know about myself, that I'm perhaps intentionally, perhaps unintentionally, that's other angles on this, not making so clear to others. It's all based on perception.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the size of the boxes can change depending on the situation or group that you're in as well. So my open area, if I'm in an environment which is very trusting and supportive, then I'm probably more willing to share more things with others. Where if it's not, if it's more of a hostile or toxic environment, then there's certainly going to be more things that I'm going to hide. So I think this can be really useful in a work environment as well. Actually, it can be sometimes a really good indicator of the level of supportiveness as well, potentially.
The more you look into this, the more you consider it, the more uses I certainly see for it. And I'm really pleased you've jumped in ahead of me, because I do forget things. It's dynamic, isn't it? These boxes aren't always equal size. Some people's open area could be very compressed. They could have I once saw a Johari window. I remember this well. I once saw a Johari window that was like a frame. It was like a physical frame, and it had well, probably bits of plastic or something you could adjust and make each of these different sizes. And I like the idea of that. I might try and find one. In other words, because dynamically, like you say, dynamically over a day, never mind over a lifetime, these move about. They move around in context. They move around during the course of perhaps even a meeting, where people's open area might become deliberately or unintentionally bigger, smaller. There's so many things around this when you get into it.
Yeah, I think the more you look at this, the more useful a tool it could be as well. And I think, again, you've sort of touched on something there. The more specific you are with it, the better it is as well. You know, I think you do need to look at a very specific topic or area or skill or something, don't you?
I was struck by that in my notes in anticipation of this, because I reflect forward in the moment and retrospectively, 3 forms of reflection. And in my look ahead reflections, I was thinking I must bring up, when I discuss this, I'm glad we've done it already, that the most value, at least to me, is when you can drill down to something really specific. Because if this was Andrew Gibbons and or Rebecca Norton, okay, what are your open areas? What are your blind spots, hidden areas unknown? That's too general, that's too big. The more you can drill down to, in my case, for instance, controlling interruptions, for instance, which is a very specific observable behavioral thing, then we get meaningful. So that's when I can say, well, perhaps I should ask more people what they think about this. Maybe my blind spot isn't as big as I think it is, or maybe it's bigger. And that's where also interaction comes useful, isn't it? If we're only relying on self-perception, we're losing out on the interactivity, the challenge, the encouragement of someone else. We'll look at coaching in relation to this separately. But again, here I am getting into things that I didn't think I would. It's a very useful tool.
Yeah, very much so. And I think knowing how to use it and the ways that you can use it is really helpful as well. And like you said, there's a number of different applications that you could use for this, and it's learning how, right, so if that's a blind spot, how do we learn that it's a blind spot? And if I don't know this, how do I find out that that's actually impacting on something? That, yeah, I like this tool. I think, yes, it can be really useful.
It's easy to talk yourself into this, isn't it? Because I know I'm doing the same. As I'm saying this, I'm thinking, oh, I know exactly where I can use this and with whom and about what. And I quite like also the fact that because it is a tool, you can work through the medium of the third party. It's not you saying, well, Rebecca, I think you've got a bit of a blockage here. It's about saying, is this in your blind spot? In other words, you can actually almost disentangle some of the potential emotiveness about it, if there's such a word. So instead of maybe challenging people directly, you might say, well, this tool suggests that there might be some things here in your hidden area. Anything there?
Yes, I think that's a really good point, actually, isn't it? It allows you to have potentially awkward conversations by, like you say, by taking away some of that emotional stuff. So as long as we use this in the correct way, then yeah, this can help people touch on things that might be a little bit, touchy on this. So certainly with a blind spot, it might be a blind spot because actually that's quite a sensitive area for somebody. So yeah, this allows you to have those potentially awkward conversations in a structured way. I like that.
Where do you see the greatest value? In which box?
Blind spot, I think, for me, because that's something that I feel that I could probably get help with quicker than the unknown. So if I don't know it and nobody else knows it, then I think that's probably could be very useful, but I think that one might be more difficult to work with. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I think the blind spot has more immediate benefits.
And then it's about finding the people that you trust to give you the feedback which clears some of that blind spot stuff that is meaningful and credible. Because some people just tell you what they think you want to hear. You want someone to say, well, Rebecca, since you're asking me, and I'm going to be really robust and honest with you here, I see this and this. And you think, ouch, that hurt a bit, but that helps move some stuff from my blind spot into my open area.
Yeah, very much. And I guess touching on this now is putting some parameters around this. So you have to be, if we're going to be talking about people's blind spots, then I think you need to have some sort of ground rules or boundaries in place, knowing that, you know, that the feedback should be given in a very constructive way rather than critical way, and the person needs to be open to hearing about their blind spots as well.
Yeah, it's very, sometimes it's a big step to say, moving away from a visual that we're looking at, sorry for listeners only, to into heavy duty stuff like contracting and clarifying roles and being responsible for the emotions raised. But this can take you there because people put things in their hidden area for a reason. People might want to keep things in their blind spot. There might be things they'd rather leave in the unknown and not touch, thank you very much. And sometimes if we're not very cautious or perceptive, we could be moving into sensitive areas without realizing it.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, I mean, it can be used much more informally as well. There's certainly over the last few months, I've become aware of a blind spot that I didn't know I had, but now I know it's there. It's like, ooh, it is a touchy one. And I think this is a problem with a lot of blind spots. It's like, actually, I know that I need to work on this area of my personality skill set. So now I'm aware of it. It gives me the opportunity to work on it if I want to, or I can continue to allow it to be a blind spot if I so wished. But I can approach it in a different way. Now I'm aware that it has been in my blind spot.
Yeah, and once we pull things out of the unknown, it's out of the box, isn't it? And if we work in a way where people become more aware of something that they were unaware of, then a responsibility goes with alongside that. We can't just say, "Oh, sorry, I caused you to reflect on something you've subconsciously chosen to put in a box for forever. It's not my fault. Oh, I'm not taking the responsibility for these tears that are now flowing from you because you're actually revisiting something." No, if we are taking people into an area, an arena, to an experience that they wouldn't have had without our participation, we should take ownership and be able to support people within the parameters of our competence. Now we're starting to get big and heavy, but this is where this could go.
Very much so, yeah. So I think as a tool, there is a lot of benefits to it, and I think it can be utilised in lots of ways, and I like the practicality of it.
I do too. Let's close this one off. We're going to do one specifically around the coaching context, which I think we just flirted with, but kept to one side. So we stressed specificity, which is a word I've been waiting to use. We've stressed the dynamic nature of it. It moves around. It's contextual. It's brilliant. Get out there and use it. And it's something which is something that a lot of people can use more often. I certainly will.
Yep,